Alright, Summoners, this is MP Blaze of New Nation. Today I'm bringing you our last war of the season, War 12 against 4 Loki. This is a rematch fight as we have played him this season. Last war during the season against 4 Loki we went 10-2, we only died 2 times to their 10. BG1 does have Protect, and this war I will be bringing Void, Quake, and White Magneto. I am taking the boss, and I plan on taking the boss with Void. It is a Sasquatch rank 3. So we're moving right along here. I am assigned path 8 in section 1 and path 2 in section 2, but only one fight on path 2. I do have one mini boss in the middle and then the boss. So I'm going to go ahead and 1 hour boost here because my second fight is Warlock and I can take some degen damage, so I'm hoping that I can heal without boosts on afterwards. This Venom fight is just a Quake and Shake fight, nothing special to it, so there's not much to watch. So we're going to go ahead and speed it up. Only thing to worry with Venom is that he is a little quick with his animations, so you have to be even quicker with your Quake and Shake and make sure not to drop the heavy. He does have a one-hit medium, so if you are a little too slow and he decides to throw a heavy, it's not hard to heavy and reapply heavy, or heavy and dexed. So it's not a difficult fight with Quake, and as you can see it's almost over and we're not even at a minute and a half. And I try to drop the heavy to end it sooner there. He's still at 1% and he's gone. So less than a minute and a half for that fight. This next fight, Warlock, I think is a little bugged. I did remove willpower, but oftentimes you take degen damage out of nowhere just because of the power drain buff. You'll see that I take it with Void and I do use a power start 1 boost. That's just so that I can get his power drain debuff from the node off immediately due to his armor up buff. There are other counters here. Some people Quake it and just deal with the degen damage. You'll see I'll take 2 rounds of the degen and then it's gone. So now it's just a regular Void versus Warlock fight. I am max boosted here, but not with special boosts. So there's no worry about triggering Protect. It's just a fight, Warlock fight. Push him to SP2, retaliate, throw SP1, and let the debuffs do their damage. It can be tricky pushing Warlock to SP2 instead of SP1 just because of his heavy quickness. So you'll see that it does look like I'm a little timid to force him to SP2. But in the end it works out pretty well. I don't take too much damage compared to Quake and shaking this node entirely without throwing a special. And you'll see we're at Fear of the Void already with 1 debuff up. He's pretty much gone. We're only at about a minute and he's in his last 5% of health. So not a difficult fight. And that's that. Alright, so you guys have seen me take this Kingpin with the White Magneto pre-fight before. It's not a hard fight for me. So I'm going to speed it up, but I did something a little special on accident, and you're going to see it during the second set of Aftershock. So it's about to hit, and realize I'm not doing that much damage. I forgot to boost. So we're currently taking this Kingpin without any boosts, and only the White Magneto pre-fight. So I'm panicking a little bit. I decide to dial in. At the end of the day for this, the situation I'm already in, it's either do as much damage as you can and maybe we time out, or do as much damage as you can and we solo. We're gonna find out. You're gonna find out. My heart was beating and pounding in my chest during this because I was a little worried as to what was gonna happen at the end here. But as we can see, it's kind of going pretty smooth. The biggest thing to worry about here that would lead to a timeout, and I took 2 hits there, so I was also worried about landing in assassin range near the end of this fight and not being able to evade, because that can happen. But the backup recovery, making this fight even longer, is what I was most worried about. But you can see I'm just sticking with Quake and Bake. It's the best way to up the charges for the Aftershock with Quake. Quake and Shake would mean if he was too aggressive, my charges wouldn't build as much. So I decided to Quake and Bake the whole thing and just see where we land. You can see we're already just below 50%. We have 2 minutes left in the fight. So I'm still panicking. Luckily my health isn't going down too crazy. even after those 2 hits. So I'm not in fear, I think, of landing in assassin range. So again, just sticking to this game plan and hoping that forgetting to boost doesn't screw me and lead to a timeout and a death. So we're just sticking with it. You will see my power bar is building from all the blocked hits I'm taking or the parries I'm taking. That's gonna benefit later on as kind of like an scapegoat. Maybe I can get to SP3, and if timer's about to end and I can't hit another aftershock, I can end the fight with an SP3. I don't know. I'm starting to drop the heavy here to see what kind of wiggle room I have and to add damage into this fight, because we're getting so close and we're within a minute. So this was just a very dumb move. It's not normal of me, but I'm starting to calm down a little bit more because we're getting in that 7% range, and it looks like we can land one more aftershock, and we are at an SP3. So we're almost at this last aftershock. He's down to 3%. We drop the heavy, pushes him to 1, and we throw the SP3. There's no way this is going to do less than 1% damage, and he's at 0 during the animation. So we did it. We walked away with a solo, even though we didn't boost. Thank God. So after that fight, I had to calm down a little bit. I had to remember to boost and throw my 6-hour boosts on. And I usually only throw 6-hour boosts if I know I'm going to be taking mini bosses and bosses, which I am in this scenario. And we're going to take Korg on this Mixmaster mini, which I don't have to take that often because Korg isn't usually here, especially with Stubborn being gone. This is just a Quake and Shake fight. Nothing crazy here. It's a 5-star, so it's going to be a little bit faster than your normal rank 3 Korg fights. Biggest thing here is to make sure that you don't fail an evade or a dex while he goes unblockable and unstoppable, because that could lead to issues, especially with the class disadvantage. Another issue is dropping the heavy. Since he's on a power focus 1 node, last thing you want to do is try to evade an SP1 against the wall. It's not always that bad, because when you usually drop heavies, it's right when the aftershock hits, so you can create some space and hope he throws it. It's just not an ideal situation. And you can see here we're at 1.5 minutes. He's almost to assassin range. I think it's only going to take about 2 minutes to end this fight. But after that Kingpin fight, this is a breeze, and we've already calmed down here. I took a minute to kind of take a breath and relax before trying to Quake and Shake this node. And he's done. All right, so I'm gonna taxi through. I am taking this Sentinel on path 2, the 2nd node with Power Sting and Strike Counter Power Drain. Again, nothing to this. This is just Quake and Shake. Sentinel's moves are a little robotic. So he's a little bit easier and slash a little bit slower. You don't have to be quick with your Quake and Shake like you do most fights. Yeah, so I had a pretty chill war when it comes to Section 1 and Section 2. It's just Quake and Shake, outside of forgetting to boost for Kingpin. I am a little surprised with the setup that 4 Loki had. We didn't have to send more than 1 Quake on a boss rush. I was actually the only one headed to Boss Island with a Quake. And you see Sentinel's already down. So not a problem. Gonna take this Mysterio as well with Quake. He is immune to concussion, but it's not a big deal here because there's nothing we're trying to shut off. Buffet is actually really easy to shut off if you trigger a dex again while the cooldown timer is running for Buffet. So there it is. And if we triggered dex within that window, we're still good. Now what I realized during this fight is that because Mysterio is concussion immune during the double concussion phase, which doesn't exist versus Mysterio, it's very easy to just Quake and Bake. So I just decided to Quake and Bake. I'm not using Quake after this fight. Healing back the damage doesn't matter. And I'm not gonna miss this, especially since Mysterio has that 1-hit heavy, which makes it really easy to either re-heavy or heavy dex. And he's down. So we're done with Quake and nothing too complicated there. All right, so last fight of the war, I do have a Sasquatch Boss, and I am taking it with Void. This is my first Sasquatch Boss since Stubborn was a global, so this is going to be a little new to me. Playing Sasquatch with Void is not new. However, kind of trying to figure out what mastery setup and what specials to use is new as to what's going to trigger Protect. So we're going in, we didn't change masteries. We still have stuff in the crit mastery tree and in the assassin mastery. I went ahead and started this fight with a power start 1 in the hopes that we get a petrify to land, and we're lucky, we got it. With Sasquatch, when he's not enraged, you really just want to push him to his wall by baiting heavies when he's stun immune on this node. And sometimes baiting specials. SP2 is easier to retaliate than SP1. Once he is enraged, you kind of slowly dial back to your wall. You'll see there an SP2 triggered protect. So maybe we shouldn't throw SP2s. Let's see if we can get the protect off with an intercept and throw another SP2 and see if it was just a fluke of crits. So he's enraged. Now we're going to be baiting those heavies, waiting for that unstoppable to fall off, and we're throwing our hits in retaliation. Letting him throw specials, paying close attention to when his combo ends into our block to retaliate. Basically waiting until that timer ends so that we don't get cornered. And then we push him back to his wall. Here's a second SP2. He got a second protect. So now I'm thinking, oh crud, I probably should have changed masteries. Because I didn't, let's go ahead and stop throwing specials. On top of that, let's see if we can work in 2 intercepts to get rid of these protections, because it is reducing the debuff damage and my hit damage during this fight. And we're already at 1.5 minutes into the fight. So usually you can intercept him pretty easily when he's in range, but what you'll notice is I'm pretty aggressive and taking my openings and my hits when I can, just so that I don't get cornered. So that gives him power, and that makes it a little harder to intercept. But I will eventually get there. So here he is enraged. Now we're going to work back to our wall a little bit, baiting his specials, not retaliating the special 2. He's not really giving us a window. He's attacking us still. We're pushing him back so that we don't get cornered, and we're still not using our specials because of the protection. And now we're coming down to almost 2.5 minutes, and he's not at 50%. So I'm kind of stressing that I can't find a window to intercept. His enrage is gone. He just threw a special, so he's no bars of power. We're gonna see, yep, and he tried to retaliate us after we backed up. So we went ahead and retaliated with an intercept, and he backed off and came back in, and we got a second one. So now both protections are gone. So now we're sitting in a good position. We're not using specials, protection's gone. Our basic attacks are doing the normal amount of damage, and they're not gonna trigger protect. And we're just basically wailing into him. Now it's the same game plan, just without specials. And we're just gonna hope that in the next 2 minutes, we can take down 41% health. And you'll just see it's the same fight. Push him to his wall when he's not enraged, kind of ease off and let him use specials when he is enraged. Bait that heavy, retaliate when the unstoppable falls off, rinse and repeat. He's not a hard fight, even with MD. My Void is a low sig, so we're not getting Fear of the Void up constantly during this fight, preventing MD from being a problem. But he's just not that difficult of a boss. And Human Torch could probably do this fight with pre-fight. I don't know, I've never tried. He doesn't trigger protect against Mojo, so there's no reason he wouldn't trigger it against Sasquatch here. I just like to have that option to deal with MD, especially for a fight where the unstoppable specials don't allow for retaliation during his rage phase. You see, we're at less than a minute, but we're at 10%. So in a minute, we did 31%. So we should be good. We're just gonna keep sticking with the game plan and let the debuffs do the damage. And we did spec for weakness in our mastery tree to add a little bit more damage. And here it is, 1%, less than 30 seconds. I know I got him, and I hit into this block. So that boss fight ends my war. So our BG finished with 1 death. As an alliance, we finished with only 3 deaths to 4 Loki's 10. And 3 deaths was great and kind of a big deal, because what we needed to do was to be 1 death less than Kenobi to get 3rd, and we did. Kenobi died 4 times against Utopia. So we met our goal, and we placed top 3 for the season, which was a big, big deal. I was really excited. wasn't that great of a season with 2 ties and a loss, but the fact that we managed to get top 3 just based off the point differential was amazing, especially over an alliance that beat us twice. At the end of the season, I like to do a little breakdown just to kind of get a feel for how well I did during the season. So you'll see here I took 44 path fights and 1 death. You guys saw that. It was the Maw fight. I took 34 mini bosses. That includes the middle 2 mini bosses along with the mini bosses around Boss Island. And then I took 10 bosses and 1 death. Now you guys didn't see that 1 death. There are some videos of the first 6 wars that I'm going to share in the off season just so that you guys have content coming. But it was against a Mangog using a Void, and we'll talk about that strategy over the off season. But overall, really good war for a really good season for me. That's 88 fights and only 2 deaths. And considering with how much I take, that's not too bad. Last season I was 83 fights, I believe, with 1 death. But still, it's a pretty good season. Great way to end it. Finished 3rd overall. Thanks for sticking through this with me and watching. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next season.